Good afternoon. My name is Steve Nicholson, and this is the Beginner's Guide to Linux for Professor Lineker's CNT 6418 course. We're going to review some basics about Linux, bring you up to speed, make you a little more familiar with it. We're going to show you probably the most popular form of Linux used in the cybersecurity industry nowadays, which is Kali. And we're going to go over some simple commands. 10-15 commands to actually get you started using Linux. So without further ado, let's begin. Linux is an open source community driven operating system. What that means is typically anything open source means that the source code is available for viewing and editing and altering and bettering by anybody. It's released through what's called a GNU license. And the fact that it is open source allows for multiple hands to be in the pot and create a very dynamic and very stable operating system. Linux has a huge community fan base. It premiered in the mid-90s. It was developed by a man named Linus Torvald, and basically was just developed to be a more flexible predecessor to the Unix system. It supports a wide range of usage and applications. And as such, as you see, Apache, a flavor of Linux, runs most of the web servers out there in existence. I believe the last time I checked, it was upwards of 60% of all web servers are running off Linux. In addition to that, many companies have also taken Linux and used it as their core OS for all sorts of devices, Internet of Things devices such as programmable thermostats and wireless light switches and all that stuff. Most of them use some sort of base Linux kernel. And they do that because, again, it is very stable and it is very flexible and extensible. So yeah, you'll see Linux used quite a bit. If you've ever done any work on a routing system, a router or switch, such as a Cisco CLI, that CLI is heavily based on and taken from the Linux CLI. Another good part of Linux is that it enables developers to completely customize the kernel. So we can have a wide variety of Linux systems with all different purposes and different capabilities. And that's actually a very unique feature of it. The parts of the Linux OS. The bootloader. Obviously, the bootloader is the software that manages the boot process of your computer. The kernel, this is kind of when we say Linux, this is kind of the core, the lowest part of the Linux operating system. The core is called the kernel. And it's the system that basically manages the CPU, the memory, peripheral devices, things like that. We have daemons, which these are background services that are always running, such as printing, sound, scheduling, backup stuff, anything, task manager, stuff like that you would have in Windows. Those would be considered daemons in Linux, and they either start up during boot if they give some sort of activity to mission critical processes, or they may start up after you log into the desktop. The shell. The shell is basically when I say CLI or command line interface, that's considered a shell. The shell is the command interface where you can actually manipulate the operating system to a heavy degree. The graphical server, this is the subsystem that displays the graphics on the monitor. It's also commonly referred to as X server or just X. In fact, if you were using a command line version of Linux and it had the X server installed, you can just start it from the command line, so you have a navigatable GUI, a graphical user interface, with using the command start X. And then we have the desktop environment. The desktop environment is the actual graphical user interface itself. And in Linux, there are tons to choose from. Some of the more common ones are Unity and GNOME, Cinnamon, Enlightenment, KDE, XFCE, etc. Each desktop environment comes with its own specific built-in applications and programs such as file managers, configuration tools, web browsers, games, productivity tools, things like that. And again, completely customizable and flexible. Now, when we talk about choosing a Linux flavor, we have to remember that there are very many variations of Linux out there. last time I checked, I think there were several thousand different ones, and you know, some are serious ones. We have enterprise ones that can actually run robust systems, such as Red Hat. You know, you've got ones that are incredibly stable, desktop to Fedora, OpenSUSE, things like that. The one that I'm going to bring and do most of the demonstrations at for the purpose of this video is actually Kali Linux. And Kali is pretty much a penetration tester's version of Linux. It has a myriad of tools that you'll see once we slide that over here. But again, there are tons of variations of Linux out there. One of the best parts, one of my most favorite parts of Linux is that if I find one with a small footprint or small file size, you can actually run them as a live CD. And the benefits of that obviously are that you don't really need to install it on your hard drive. So it's extremely portable. You can run it as a live CD from a CD or DVD media or USB jump drive. It's fantastic. That's one of my favorite features of the Linux operating system. And when you decide to choose a version of Linux, one of the best places to visit is distrowatch.com. You can pretty much find information on every version of Linux out there and decide which one is your ideal flavor or build for your specific task at hand. All right, let's talk the Linux command line interface. The command line interface in Linux is easily one of the best strengths of the Linux-based systems. It's unique in that it's cross-platform within Linux, so it allows users to be independent of distributions of Linux. And what that means is, if I sit somebody down, if I take somebody who's an expert of the Kali Linux system, okay, and I sit them down on a totally different kernel, a totally different flavor of Linux, and have them do some work on it in the command line, 99.9999% of the commands and stuff are going to carry over. The only thing that may be different is some of the package managers, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But other than that, it enables a very nice, smooth process of flowing from one version of Linux to another. The CLI too, if you're just running off the CLI and you're running on something, a low-end computer that doesn't really have the processing power to run a GUI, the CLI obviously saves system resources in that regards and allows you complete manipulation of the machine, of the file system and operating system from just the command line interface. It has a set structure of commands. So like I said before, different OSs may use different structure to perform the same task, but the unique part about it is that it does have a structured set of commands. And the most popular Linux shell, obviously, is Bash. There's one out right now called KZC. I can't remember, ZXC, KZC. That is quickly catching popularity, but I mean, Bash is the king in that regards. All right, let's talk some commands. The commands in Linux are very important. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's take a look at the a Linux interface. So this is my Kali Linux version running within VMware Workstation Pro. This is the rolling Kali update, so it has access to all the latest repositories and everything. And as you can see, it's a different GUI than you might be used to with Windows, but it is still very easy point-and-click GUI. We have you know, user-specific stuff here, date, time. We have our access to, this would be considered our start menu in Windows, where it has access to most of our popular tools. We also have access to our places within the computer if we need to go to our home folder, desktop documents, downloads, whatever, it's all right there. Here we have our quick access toolbar. You can see Kali comes preloaded with a bunch of stuff here. We're primarily only going to be worried about the files, which would be like your Windows file manager, and the terminal, which is your command line interface. And as you can see here, clicking the terminal brings up a black window, which is completely customizable, and we can start to enter commands. But before that, let's learn about some of them. LS. LS is great. It stands for list directory or list directory contents, and it lists the contents of a folder, be it in a file or folder from which it runs. So, for instance, if I come over here and we open up this VMware folder, and we'll open up this one, and I'll just go ahead and open up a terminal right here. As you can see, here's the path, and I just do ls it's going to show me everything that's in here. And you'll notice that Kali also customizes it via directories, files, and then like executables or scripts that can run. So LS is great, and there's a ton of different options within LS. In fact, this brings up an excellent time to talk about the man command. If we do any command in Linux, if we precede it with man, it means manual or help, the help file. We get a complete list of all sorts of things that whatever command can do. As you can see, the ls command is quite diverse here, quite diverse. So we'll quit out of that. Okay. And that is the ls command. Now if we do cd, cd stands for change directory, and it actually changes the working directory that you're currently in. We slide the Kali back over here. We can see that my directory right now is on the desktop, VMware Tools, and then the VMware Tools distribution. But if I wanted to go back to my desktop, within the command line, I can do cd ... which will put me one level up, and then another cd ... another level up. And as you can see, I am in desktop mode. I'm in the desktop directory. So cd, change directories, real good. If I wanted to go back, I could go cd and then just start typing in VMware Tools again, and hit tab to let Linux finish it up, and there we go. I'm back in that directory. So we can go back there. Let's take a look at our next command. Next command is cat. Now cat is very useful. The command cat stands for concatenate. It allows you to create, join, or print the contents of a file or files. So for instance, if I bring my Kali back over here and I say cat, yeah, we'll just, oops, I actually forgot the, so we can create a file with concatenate just like that, and as you'll see, it created the file A on the desktop here in the directory that we're working in, right? So that's a great feature. And if we go again, we can create another one, file B, right? And now we can see we have two file A, file B on there. Now if I take if these had data and I did this within cat, I can actually take both the contents of file A and the contents of file B and produce a combined thing with both contents in there, and it'll put them in the order that you actually concatenate them in. So file A's data will be first, and then file B's, and it adds them all into a nice file. So cat is a great way. We can also go, if there was data here in cat, in file A, we would see it right here. Cat would bring it up. So yeah, cat is very useful command. All right, our next command is cp. Now cp is fantastic because again, it stands for copy, and it copies a file from one location to another. Super easy command to use. If I come back in here and do file, and create another, right now cat is waiting for me to type, so we'll just do okay, and here we go. We have our file.txt, and you'll see that sample data is actually written in there, which is of course what was in the command that I gave it. So cp, if I wanted to take this file .txt and then move it somewhere, I can do something like that, once I have the thing. And if I go in the home directory, we can actually see the file. So CP works great for that. Our next command is MV. So let's say I go into and we list the dir command. Oops. Let's say I want to, let's find a file here. Let's go into home, and here's the common, right? So let's say well, let's say we wanted to copy a file. So we list out our files here that are in here. Excuse me, if we wanted to move a file, I'll just grab log.txt. So if I do move log.txt, and we'll put it onto the desktop. Okay, and we'll notice that that file is now moved there. So the move command, very, very, very useful. PWD. All right, PWD stands for print working directory, and it displays the current working directory and path that you're in. So right now, if I was to hit PWD on here, we could see that if I was to bring the Linux over here and I was to hit PWD in here, we can see that I'm actually within the root folder here of the Linux OS, and that's PWD. Uname. Uname is fantastic because it stands for Unix name. It will print detailed information about the machine name, operating system, and the kernel. If I bring my thing over here, we can see it's very limited, obviously, in this because it is a virtualized system. But yeah, uname, Unix name. Sudo. So sudo superuser do is a command that allows a permitted user to execute a command as a superuser or another user as specified by the security policy in the sudoers list. Basically, this equates to administrative privilege. As you can see right here, I am root at Kali, so I do already have sudo access. But if for some reason I ever wanted to, if I didn't have it, I needed to elevate it. Sudo-i does a great job. It does it for the entire session that you're logged in there into the terminal, and that's sudo make dir. So the command mkdir make directory command creates a new directory within a specific name path. So for instance, we're here in root, and I wanted to, let's say I want to create a, let's go ahead and go so we can see it pop up. Okay, there's our file. So let's say we're in desktop here, and we want to do mkdir to create a folder that is containing files for our current class, and as you can see, creates it right there. Make dir. History. So history is a great one if you're going through doing a lot of editing, a lot of bash scripting or anything like that, and you kind of forgot a command that you wanted to do. History will print the long list of executed commands in terminal. So if I bring my Kali back over here and we type in the history command, we can see everything I've done, well, recently actually. Some of this, I apologize, but some of this I was doing the National Cyber League competition here a little while ago, and these are some of the commands to get some of the stuff going. So, but as you can see, these are some of the ones that we've done so far today, starting right about here. So, history, very useful command. Chmod. Chmod's great because very often you'll encounter files, folders, stuff like that, or scripts that need to have the permissions changed. They either need to, either take ownership of it, which you'd use chown for that. But if you need to change any kind of file mode bits, chmod is the tool that you would use for that. If you need to restrict access or restrict the ability to execute or read or write any type of file, chmod is what you would use. tar. Tar is another great one. Tar allows the manipulation and creation of archived files. So just as in Windows, you'd have WinZip or the built-in Windows zip extension manager. Tar does the same thing. It allows you to create a completely, like a very well compressed archive of a particular set of files, folders, anything like that. The app command. The app command is excellent. It stands for the Advanced Package Tool, and what it is it's essentially a package manager for the Debian-based system. So Ubuntu, Kubuntu, in this case Kali, because it is based on Debian as well, that automatically intelligently searches, installs, updates, and resolves dependencies of packages of the GNU/Linux system from the command line interface. So just to illustrate how useful the APT is, if I come in here and I want to install, let's say I want to install a different package manager, I want to install the Yum one, I can come in here and hit apt-get install Yum, and as you can see, it automatically finds it. And here's another great thing about the APT package manager, is that it finds outdated stuff too, and it lets you know. So I have some outdated commands on here, or some outdated programs on here. So I'm not going to start the install of that, but let's go ahead and do, let's go ahead and remove these. These are outdated packages that are no longer needed here. And as you can see, just as simple as that, it really provides a much more robust and efficient manager of installing and updating and removing software than, in my opinion, than the Windows operating system does with its programs and features manager. As you can see, also it also processes triggers and stuff, and then boom, you're done right here. One of my favorite things about apt is that we can actually chain commands together. So if I do apt-get upgrade and apt-get dist upgrade, which is our distribution upgrade, and apt-get update, I can chain the whole command together, hit that, and it's literally going to tell me everything that needs to be updated with not only the Linux distribution that I'm using, but also any software dependencies, things like that. As you can see, my particular one here needs to get 838 megabytes of additional disk space, so I'm going to actually go ahead and let it do that while we run this. While I finish this up, I mean. So we're going to let that keep going here. And it's pretty much hands-off, pretty much automatic, but the APT is awesome. DD. DD is fantastic. Obviously, in our line of work, we're going to use DD quite a bit. DD stands for convert and copy a file. It can be used to convert and copy a file, and most of the times is used to copy either an ISO file to a USB stick or some external drive, and can be used to make a bootable USB stick. MD5 sum, an excellent tool for when you need to verify hashes, an MD5 hash. It stands for, compute and check the MD5 message digest. It is used to match or verify the integrity of the files that have changed. It can use in forensics, obviously, we use it a lot to make sure that the source data we receive is the same as the data that we're sending out. And if I bring over, as you can see, my APT is still installing, but if I bring over my Kali over here and I open another shell, as soon as it catches up, okay, we can actually go, we'll go ahead and like this. We can actually do the MD5 sum of, let's say this file.txt, okay? So I'm going to open up a folder here, and I'm going to go MD5 sum file.txt. Boom. And so this is a unique hash put out, MD5 message digest hash here of this particular file.txt. And all it has in it is this sample data. But if I change even one thing, like if I change sample data to, sorry, virtualized problem here. If I change sample data to sampled data, right, and save it out, and then I run the same command again, keep an eye on those on the MD5. If I run the same command again, as you can see, just changing one letter completely changes the hash of the file. So something to keep in mind there. Very, very important tool, especially for verification of data.